Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning, and every achievement you've ever fought for, every degree, every promotion, every carefully constructed identity, suddenly feels like an elaborate performance for an audience that was never really watching. The mask you've been wearing fits so perfectly that you've forgotten what your actual face looks like underneath. You've been playing a character written by someone else, in a story you never agreed to tell. This isn't a nightmare. This is the quiet crisis humming beneath the surface of modern life, and you've been living it without even realizing. Here's the disturbing truth that Friedrich Nietzsche understood over a century ago. Most people mistake weakness for virtue, and call their submission morality. They take their inability to fight back and rebrand it as being the bigger person. They confuse their fear of standing out with humility. And the most terrifying part? They genuinely believe they've chosen this path. They've convinced themselves that their cage is actually a home. You feel it, don't you? That gnawing sensation that something fundamental is wrong, not with the world, but with how you've been taught to exist in it. You've been trained to seek comfort, avoid conflict, and wait patiently for someone else to grant you permission to be powerful. Society has given you a pacifier and called it wisdom. It's taught you to manage your pain instead of transforming it, to cope instead of conquer, to survive instead of thrive. But what if everything you've been told about becoming strong was designed to keep you weak? What if the very methods you've been using to build yourself up have been slowly hollowing you out from the inside? What if your pursuit of happiness has been the precise mechanism that's made you miserable? What if your obsession with avoiding suffering has been the very thing preventing you from accessing real power? Nietzsche saw this trap and mapped the way out, not through self-help platitudes or positive thinking, but through a radical reconstruction of how we understand strength itself. He didn't offer comfort. He offered transformation. He didn't promise that the path would be easy. He promised it would make you invincible. It's what makes this urgent. Every day you spend operating within the old framework is a day you're reinforcing your own powerlessness. The modern world has created sophisticated systems for manufacturing psychological weakness, while making you believe you're growing. You're on a treadmill that's disguised as a path forward. You're working harder and harder, yet somehow ending up more exhausted, more anxious, more dependent on external validation than ever before. The question isn't whether you feel weak sometimes. The question is, have you mistaken your weakness for your identity? Have you built an entire personality around your wounds? Have you become so comfortable in your victimhood that the thought of genuine power actually terrifies you? Because here's the paradox that will haunt you. True strength isn't about feeling powerful. It's about building a psychological architecture so robust that external circumstances become irrelevant. It's about reaching a state where you don't need the world to accommodate you because you've become unshakable from within. Nietzsche discovered a three-part system for building this kind of power. A method so counterintuitive that it will violate everything you've been taught about personal growth. And if you stay with me until the end of this exploration, you'll understand not just how to become psychologically powerful, but why you've been systematically prevented from discovering this knowledge until now. You'll see the invisible architecture of your own weakness, and more importantly, you'll learn exactly how to dismantle it. This isn't motivation. This is excavation. We're not building you up. We're digging down to what you actually are beneath all the stories you've been told. And I promise you this, what we find there will be both terrifying and liberating in equal measure. If this resonates with something you felt but couldn't name, if you're ready to stop performing strength and start embodying it, then share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to join others who've decided to stop seeking comfort and start seeking power. And hit that like button if you're ready to admit that everything you thought you knew about becoming strong might be exactly what's been keeping you weak. Now let's begin the real work. You've been infected with a disease that disguises itself as health. It's called ressentiment, Nietzsche's term for the most corrosive psychological state a human being can inhabit. And you probably have it right now, coursing through your mental bloodstream without even knowing its name. Ressentiment isn't just resentment. It's something far more insidious. It's what happens when you lack the power to change your circumstances. So instead, you change how you value those circumstances. You can't reach the grapes, so you declare them sour. You can't achieve greatness, so you redefine greatness as a moral failing. You can't compete, so you make competition itself evil. In On the Genealogy of Morals, Nietzsche traced this disease back to its origin. He showed how entire moral systems were built not from strength, but from weakness seeking revenge. The powerless couldn't defeat the powerful through force, so they waged a psychological war instead. They created a value system that made weakness virtuous and strength villainous. They turned their inability to fight into a moral high ground and called it righteousness. Here's what makes this revelation so devastating. You've inherited this slave morality and mistake it for your own authentic values. When you feel guilty about your ambitions, when you apologize for taking up space, when you feel ashamed of your desire for power, that's not your conscience speaking. That's centuries of psychological conditioning, designed to keep you domesticated. Modern society has perfected this system of creating psychological weakness, while calling it enlightenment. You're taught to process your trauma endlessly, but never to transform it into fuel. You're encouraged to identify with your pain, to make it the center of your narrative, to treat your wounds as your identity. Therapy culture has given you a vocabulary for understanding your suffering, but rarely a methodology for transcending it. Look at how we talk about mental health today. We've created elaborate frameworks for managing anxiety, for coping with depression, for accommodating our limitations. These aren't tools for building strength. They're sophisticated systems for making peace with weakness. We've mistaken symptom management for cure. We've confused survival with flourishing. Nietzsche saw this trap in his own time, writing in The Gay Science about the last man, the creature who has made comfort his god and safety his supreme value. The last man blinks and says, "We have invented happiness." But this happiness is nothing more than the absence of pain, the avoidance of struggle, the elimination of anything that might challenge or disturb. This is the happiness of cattle, not of human beings reaching toward their full potential. The hidden problem runs even deeper than you think. You've been taught to seek validation from the very systems designed to keep you dependent. You chase likes, followers, promotions, and approvals. External metrics that can be given or taken away at any moment. Your sense of self-worth has been outsourced to forces beyond your control. You've made yourself psychologically homeless, constantly seeking shelter in the opinions of others. This is why you feel weak, even when you're technically successful. This is why achievement feels hollow. This is why you can check every box society tells you to check and still feel like something essential is missing. You've built your entire psychological structure on a foundation of sand, on values you never chose, pursuing goals you never really wanted, according to rules written by people who had no interest in your actual flourishing. Nietzsche called this the death of God, not because he was celebrating atheism, but because he recognized that the old sources of absolute meaning had collapsed, and we hadn't yet figured out what would replace them. We're living in that void right now. We've lost the old certainties, but haven't created new ones. So we fill the emptiness with distractions, addictions, and an endless cycle of shallow pleasures that never quite satisfy. The most brutal truth is this: you've been trained to be weak and told it's strength. You've been taught to be dependent and told it's independence. You've been conditioned to be a victim and told it's empowerment. The entire apparatus of modern culture, from education to entertainment to self-help, has conspired to produce not powerful individuals, but manageable consumers who mistake their chains for jewelry. This isn't a conspiracy. It's something worse. It's an emergent property of systems that benefit from your weakness. Weak people are predictable. Weak people are controllable. Weak people buy products that promise to fix them. Weak people don't threaten existing power structures. Weak people make excellent employees, excellent citizens, excellent marks. And if you found yourself nodding along to any of this, recognizing your own patterns in these words, then like this video right now. Because what comes next will show you exactly how this machinery operates in your own psyche. Share it with someone who's been stuck in the same trap. Subscribe because you're about to learn something that no self-help guru will ever teach you. How to stop managing your weakness and start building genuine power. But understanding the problem is just the beginning. The real question is, what has this disease cost you? What has this lifetime of psychological domestication actually taken from you? That's what we need to examine next. Because until you see the true price you've paid, you won't have the motivation to do what's necessary to break free. You think you're making choices, but you're actually running scripts written by your traumas, your culture, and your fears. The consequences of this aren't abstract. They're stealing your life in real time, one compromised decision at a time. Let's start with something you've probably never connected. Your chronic exhaustion isn't about lack of sleep or too much work. It's about living in a constant state of psychological betrayal. Every time you swallow your real thoughts to keep the peace, every time you shrink yourself to make others comfortable, every time you perform enthusiasm for things you don't actually care about, you're hemorrhaging energy. You're maintaining a false self that requires tremendous resources to sustain, leaving your authentic self malnourished and gasping for air. Neuroscience has a term for this: cognitive dissonance. When your actions don't align with your actual values, your brain experiences it as a form of pain. But here's what makes it insidious. You've learned to numb that pain so effectively that you no longer even register it. You've adapted to the discomfort the way someone adapts to living next to a highway. The noise never stops, but you've stopped consciously hearing it. Meanwhile, it's still destroying your sleep, your health, your capacity for genuine joy. The psychological damage compounds over time in ways you don't see until it's almost too late. You develop what Nietzsche called the spirit of revenge, a subtle, pervasive bitterness that colors everything. You can't celebrate others' success without feeling that sharp pang of comparison. You can't pursue your own goals without a nagging voice telling you who you think you are. You can't rest without guilt. You can't strive without anxiety. You're trapped between shame for not being enough and shame for wanting to be more. This is the cognitive trap of learned helplessness, a concept psychologist Martin Seligman discovered by accident. When organisms are subjected to negative stimuli, they cannot escape. They eventually stop trying to escape even when the opportunity presents itself. They've been conditioned into powerlessness. And this is precisely what modern life does to you. It presents an endless series of frustrations you cannot immediately change, training you to accept rather than to fight, to cope rather than to conquer. But the consequences run deeper still. You've lost access to what Nietzsche called the will to power. Not power over others, but the fundamental drive toward growth, mastery, and self-overcoming. This isn't about domination. It's about the basic human need to expand, to test your limits, to become more than you currently are. When this drive is suppressed, when you're taught that ambition is selfish, that competition is toxic, that wanting more makes you ungrateful, something essential inside you begins to atrophy. Look at how you relate to difficulty now. Be honest. When you encounter resistance, what's your first impulse? For most people trained in modern weakness, it's to find a way around it, to make it easier, to get someone else to handle it, or to simply give up and call it setting healthy boundaries. You've been taught that struggle is a sign something's wrong, rather than a sign you're growing. You've learned to interpret pain as damage rather than as feedback. The cultural programming goes even further. You've been sold an identity based on your wounds. I'm someone who struggles with anxiety. I'm a survivor of trauma. I have imposter syndrome. These aren't neutral descriptions. They're identity statements that anchor you to a fixed self-concept. They create what psychologists call a narrative identity built around limitation rather than possibility. And once you've built your sense of self around your struggles, actually overcoming them becomes psychologically threatening. Who would you be without your anxiety? What would be special about you without your trauma story? This is the cruelest trick of all. You've been taught to find meaning in your suffering, rather than to extract meaning from overcoming it. You've learned to perform your wounds for sympathy, rather than to transform them into strength. You've made your pain your personality, and now you're unconsciously invested in maintaining it, because to heal would be to lose your identity. The social consequences ripple outward invisibly. You select friends who won't challenge you. You choose relationships where you can remain small. You pursue careers that are realistic rather than ambitious. You make every major life decision through the lens of fear, disguised as prudence. And with each choice, you're constructing a smaller and smaller cage, telling yourself it's actually a cozy home. Meanwhile, time is passing. Years are vanishing. You're watching others build empires while you're still trying to build enough confidence to speak up in a meeting. You're seeing people younger than you achieving things you once dreamed about, but have now rationalized away. And with each passing year, the story you tell yourself about why you haven't becomes more elaborate, more convincing, more calcified. The ultimate consequence is this: you're living a derivative life. Your thoughts aren't your own. They're curated from social media feeds and cultural narratives. Your values aren't your own. They're absorbed from whatever ideology happened to reach you first. Your goals aren't your own. They're borrowed from people who had different gifts, different circumstances, different souls. You've become a photocopy of a photocopy, and with each generation, the image gets fainter. And if you're feeling the weight of these words, if you're recognizing the architecture of your own cage, then like this video, because what comes next is the key to the lock. Share it with someone who's been living in the same prison. Subscribe because you're about to learn what they never taught you. That everything you think is protecting you is actually suffocating you. But here's what you need to understand. Recognizing the consequences isn't enough. Awareness alone changes nothing. You can spend years in therapy, understanding exactly how you got here, and still remain exactly where you are. What you need isn't more analysis. What you need is a complete rebellion against everything that made you this way. And that's exactly what Nietzsche's system provides. Not insight, but insurrection. Everything you've learned about building strength has been backwards. The real work doesn't begin with affirmations or confidence-building exercises. It begins with something far more radical, deliberately choosing to suffer in ways that forge you rather than break you. This is Nietzsche's first principle, and it will violate everything comfortable you believe about personal growth. Amor, Fati, love your fate. Not accept it. Not tolerate it. Not make peace with it. Love it. Every brutal moment, every humiliation, every failure, every betrayal, you must learn to look at it and say, I wouldn't change a single thing. But this isn't some sentimental nonsense about everything happens for a reason. This is something far more powerful and far more dangerous. Nietzsche is telling you to actively seek out the suffering that will transform you. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." But we've domesticated that quote, turned it into a bumper sticker. What he actually meant was, deliberately place yourself in situations that might destroy you, because that's the only way to discover what you're actually made of. Here's how this works in practice. Identify the thing you've been avoiding because it terrifies you. Not the thing that's dangerous or stupid, The thing that would require you to become someone you're currently not. Maybe it's starting that business. Maybe it's having the conversation that could end your relationship. Maybe it's pursuing the art that might reveal you have no talent. Whatever it is, you know what it is. And you've constructed an entire fortress of rationalizations around why now isn't the right time, why you're not ready, why it's actually more mature to be realistic. Tear down that fortress. Not tomorrow. Today. Because here's what happens when you finally do the thing that terrifies you. You don't just gain confidence. You undergo a fundamental transformation in your relationship with fear itself. You discover that the anticipation of suffering is always worse than the suffering itself. You learn that you can endure far more than you thought. You realize that the voice in your head that's been protecting you has actually been imprisoning you. This is the first part of Nietzsche's system. Embrace suffering as the forge. Stop trying to eliminate discomfort. Stop seeking ease. Stop making your primary goal in life the avoidance of pain. Instead, actively choose difficulty that serves your becoming. Choose the hard conversation over comfortable silence, the workout that breaks you over the one that merely maintains you. But embracing suffering alone isn't enough. That's just masochism. This is where the second principle comes in, and it's even more radical. Revalue your values. Nietzsche called this transvaluation, the complete reconstruction of what you believe is good and bad, right and wrong, worthy and worthless. Stop and actually examine the values you're living by. Where did they come from? Did you choose them? Or were they installed in you before you had the consciousness to question them? Are you pursuing what you actually want, or what you were told to want? Are you proud of what genuinely matters to you, or ashamed of it because society says you should be? In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche demolished the comfortable fiction that moral values are universal and timeless. He showed that every value system serves someone's interests. The question is, whose interests are your values serving? Are they making you powerful or keeping you compliant? Are they expanding your life or contracting it? Here's the practical application. Write down everything you believe you should do, be, or want. Every obligation, every expectation, every goal you've never questioned. Then ruthlessly interrogate each one. Who benefits from you believing this? What would happen if you simply stopped? What would you pursue if you weren't trying to prove something to someone who doesn't actually care? This process is terrifying because it reveals how much of your life has been lived for an imaginary audience. You've been performing for people who aren't watching, seeking approval from standards you never agreed to, sacrificing your actual desires on the altar of hypothetical judgments. And the moment you see this clearly, you can't unsee it. You're forced to choose. Continue the performance or step off the stage entirely. The third principle completes the system. Create your own mythology. Nietzsche understood that humans cannot live without meaning, without narrative, without some sense that their existence points towards something significant. The old myths, religious, cultural, ideological, have lost their power for most people. So you must become a myth maker for yourself. This doesn't mean deluding yourself. It means consciously constructing a narrative about who you are and what you're becoming that's so compelling. It pulls you forward through any obstacle. Nietzsche called this the Übermensch, not a superhuman, but a human who has overcome the human need for external validation and created their own meaning. Think about the people throughout history who achieved the impossible. They all had one thing in common. They believed in a version of themselves that didn't yet exist and acted as if it were already true. They created a personal mythology so powerful that reality eventually bent to match it. Alexander didn't wait until he'd conquered the world to believe he was destined to. He believed it first, and that belief shaped every decision until it became real. You need to craft your own mythos. Not a goal, not a dream, a mythological destiny that's larger than your current self. Something so audacious that pursuing it will require you to shed every limitation you currently accept. Something that makes your current fears seem trivial by comparison. Something that, even if you fail, the attempt itself will transform you into someone unrecognizable from who you are now. If you're feeling the rebellion stirring inside you, if you're ready to stop being a supporting character in someone else's story, then hit that like button, because sharing this message is itself an act of rebellion against the comfortable lies we're all supposed to maintain. Subscribe to join the others who've decided to stop asking permission to be powerful. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their discomfort isn't a sign something's wrong. It's a sign they're ready to evolve. But here's what you need to understand. This isn't a self-improvement program. This is a controlled demolition of everything you've built on a false foundation, followed by a reconstruction using materials you forge yourself. It's not about becoming a better version of you. It's about discovering what you actually are when you strip away everything that was installed in you. And that discovery, that final, ultimate truth about what you're capable of becoming, that's what we need to explore next. Because the deepest secret of Nietzsche's system isn't about building strength. It's about recognizing the strength that's been there all along, buried under layers of conditioning, waiting for you to remember what you are. Here's the truth that will either liberate you or haunt you for the rest of your life. You were never weak. You were domesticated. And the moment you truly understand the difference, everything changes. Weakness is a lack of capacity. Domestication is the systematic suppression of capacity you already possess. A weak animal cannot hunt. A domesticated animal has forgotten how. You haven't lost your power. You've been trained to fear it, to apologize for it, to keep it locked away where it can't threaten the systems that benefit from your compliance. Think about what happens when a circus elephant is trained. As a baby, it's chained to a stake it cannot escape. It pulls and pulls, learning through pain that resistance is futile. Years later, when that elephant has the strength to uproot trees, it remains bound by a thin rope tied to a small stake. Not because it lacks the power to break free, but because it learned long ago not to try. The chain is gone, but the conditioning remains. You are that elephant. The chains that once held you have been replaced by invisible ones. Beliefs about what's possible, what's appropriate, what's realistic. You're not trapped by your circumstances. You're trapped by your learned interpretation of your circumstances. You've been taught to pull gently at the rope, rather than to recognize you could snap it without effort. This is Nietzsche's ultimate revelation, the one that synthesizes everything. Eternal recurrence. He asked the most psychologically devastating question possible. What if you had to live your exact life, with all its pain and failure and humiliation, over and over again, infinitely, without change? Would you curse that fate, or would you embrace it? This isn't a metaphysical question. It's a diagnostic tool for measuring whether you're living a life of power or a life of resentment. If the thought of repeating your life horrifies you, you're living wrong. If the thought thrills you, if you can look at even your worst moments and say, yes, again, exactly as it was, then you've achieved what few humans ever do. You've become the author of your own existence rather than its victim. But here's where it gets even more profound. Nietzsche isn't asking you to wait until your life is perfect before you can embrace eternal recurrence. He's saying that the act of embracing it, right now, exactly as things are, is what transforms you. The moment you can look at your current life, with all its flaws, all its incompleteness, all its suffering, and say, I wouldn't change a thing, you step into a completely different relationship with reality. You stop being someone to whom life happens and become someone who happens to life. You stop waiting for conditions to be right and start making conditions irrelevant. You stop seeking happiness and start generating power. And power, unlike happiness, doesn't depend on external circumstances. Power is what remains when everything else is stripped away. Let me give you the practical framework for actually implementing this. Because philosophy, without application, is just intellectual entertainment. First, the daily difficulty practice. Every single day, choose one thing that makes you uncomfortable, and do it deliberately. Not recklessly dangerous, strategically challenging. Call the person you've been avoiding. Sit with the emotion you've been numbing. Attempt the task you've been postponing because failure would sting. Build the muscle of voluntary discomfort until fear becomes just another sensation you can observe without being controlled by it. Second, the value audit. Once a week, take 15 minutes to examine one belief you've never questioned. Write it down. Ask, who benefits from me believing this? What does this belief cost me? What would I pursue if I didn't believe it? Then, and this is crucial, act on at least one insight from that examination. Change one behavior. Make one decision differently. Test whether the belief is actually true or just inherited programming. Third, the mythology ritual. Every morning before the world floods your consciousness with its demands, spend 5 minutes connecting with the mythological version of yourself. Not your current self, not even your realistic future self, the mythological figure you're growing toward. Ask, what would that version of me do today? How would they interpret this challenge? What would be beneath them to worry about? Then carry that energy into your day like armor. Fourth, the recurrence test. Before any major decision, ask yourself, if I had to make this exact choice infinite times, would I? If the answer is no, don't do it, no matter how logical, safe, or expected it seems. If the answer is yes, do it immediately, regardless of fear. This single filter will transform your decision-making from fear-based to power-based. Fifth, the suffering journal. Keep a record of every moment of difficulty you face. But here's the twist. Don't write about it as something that happened to you. Write about it as something you chose, something that's forging you, something you'd voluntarily repeat. Reframe every hardship from victimhood to voluntary transformation. Watch how this simple shift in language rewrites your entire narrative. The final truth, the one that makes everything else possible, is this. Psychological power isn't built through comfort or achievement. It's built through the willingness to fully inhabit your experience without needing it to be different. It's the capacity to look at reality exactly as it is, strip away every comforting delusion, and still say yes to existence. Most people spend their entire lives saying no to reality while pretending to say yes. They accept their circumstances while resenting them. They go through the motions while dreaming of escape. They accumulate achievements while feeling empty. They're alive but not living, existing but not becoming. You have a choice right now, not tomorrow, not when conditions are better, not when you feel ready. Right now. You can continue the comfortable sleep of domestication, or you can wake up to what you actually are beneath all the conditioning. You can keep pulling gently at the rope, or you can remember you have the strength to snap it. Nietzsche's system doesn't promise to make your life easier. It promises to make you stronger than your life can break. It offers something far more valuable, the power to remain undefeated regardless of what happens. It teaches you not how to avoid suffering, but how to make suffering into the raw material of your transformation. And here's the final paradox. The moment you stop needing to be powerful, the moment you've built such robust psychological architecture, that external validation becomes irrelevant. That's when you become truly powerful. Not the performance of strength, but the embodiment of it. Not the display of invincibility, but the quiet certainty that nothing can fundamentally touch you. If this message has reached something deep inside you, if you recognize the elephant and the rope in your own life, then like this video, not for me, but as a declaration to yourself that you're ready to break free. Share it with someone still sleeping, someone who needs to hear that their cage has no lock. Subscribe, because this is just the beginning of remembering what you actually are. The question isn't whether you have the capacity for psychological power. The question is whether you have the courage to stop pretending you don't. Everything you need is already there, buried under years of domestication, waiting for you to remember. The rope is thin. You are strong, and you've always known it. Now stop pulling gently and break free.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more of such deep, thought-provoking content.